much was on the freeway one day, crying out of nowhere, and I decided to pull off the freeway, and it was like I was being guided, and so I ended up at that building, and I didn't even know where the building was. I just knew it from a website that I have looked into some videos and things like that, but I didn't really know where the building was. So it was, for me, it was like magical that I was literally led to the building that moment that I was having a crisis while I was driving. So I got to the building and there was no one available except you. So we met there. You listened to my whole story. You listened to my whole story, and we agreed that we're gonna have a session because we thought that that could help me. So I did. I scheduled a session. I think a couple of days later, and I came back. Now, mind you, here I was. I am LDS, Mormon, no believing in previous life, reincarnations, and none of that stuff. Like all of that was brand new to me up until that point.
And how ironic, because I want to point out here, because I grew up LDS, and what are the odds? See, this is the way spirit works. They guided you into that place, to me, because we had that connection and that background together. So it was so beautiful.
And that was important. And that was important because I think had we not had that connection, I would have probably be thinking this lady's crazy or something else. Like, I mean, I didn't even know. I was so close in my little world with my beliefs and everything that it never crossed my mind to even consider past lives or even reincarnations or anything like that. So it was not in my existence. It was not part of my life. So when I got to the session, it was quite impressive for me. First, because I actually, when I came out of it, I felt such a relief, and I found I understood a lot of things. But it was like, oh, because like I never experienced even floating or just traveling in time. And it was literally like I was literally going through time so fast, so fast. It was like, I don't know if you've seen those movies, but sometimes when movies, they want to move time, they show like flashlights of the freeways or things like that. And that's how it was for me. It was kind of like so fast that you can see the time, the lights of the cities or something. It was quite impressive.
So it's like you were seeing images passing by you, right? You were seeing images, just passing by. Just
I was seeing images like in a tunnel, like I was in a tunnel, and I was just seeing images going so fast, and I knew there were like time periods of life, and you can say that there were different time periods because some of them had like lights and power, lights today as we know them, and some of them had candles and things like that. So you knew you were like literally traveling time.
Through time.
But yes, but it was so impressive for me because it was like I was like going through this tunnel, and then I was like, stop, you gotta visit here, and then we go see this scene, and sometimes we did talk about it because it was like a glance and then come out and then go back, and then it was a glance and come back, and it was more like glance, 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 glance until we stop. And I think you asked questions like the most appropriate life or something that we needed to.
Yeah, because we never guide. The higher self always takes you to the most appropriate time and place. So I never tell you where to go. We just allow the higher self to take us to that place. So when you're floating along there, we're just heading towards the most appropriate, a place that you needed to see that day. So, and typically it's based on things that are going on in your life, basically.
Exactly. And not only that, but I mean, going back and now as I think about it just now, I'm like, I come from this world where I didn't believe none of that. So I think it was like showing me until I convinced myself that that was possible, that was true. But then for me, it was beautiful because I clearly remember the first time. I mean, we've done so many sessions already, but the very first time, I remember I got to see like creation and everything was like where there was nothing. It was dark, and then things started to become, and it was like I got to go through the whole process because I needed to see that it all began at one point.
Mm-hmm.
That was really enlightening and beautiful to see that part. And I remember one of the parts that it was that I was in that place and I was counting and I don't know, part of some development, let's put it that way, in the creation. So it was really beautiful to see that, it's like all together, like it all works and it's really a time period. So it's not just one of my past lives as in like the one that I experienced to or understand or connect to the sadness that I was having, because I was experiencing a lot of sadness and I couldn't get rid of it. Even though I have my family, even though I have my kids, even though I have happy moments of my life, I still had that sadness, like it was right here deep ingrained in me, and I couldn't understand why. Why couldn't I let it go of that? And so through that session, the first session, we actually visited one of the past lives in which I was a guy. That was shocking for me first of all.
And
That's the funny thing.
when you were that guy,
Uh-huh.
did you feel like you were just really that person while you were in
Yeah.
the session? Yeah.
Yes. It was like I was seeing it through my own eyes, and I'm like looking at my body, and I'm like this old grumpy couchy man. Well, not grumpy, but and if I could like point at a time right now, or at least an area, I would imagine like Greece or somewhere over there where the housing, the style, the type of engraving. I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. Like I have a picture here. I can't even get
You
it out.
can't even put it out sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was a fisherman. I was a fisherman. And here I was like big old, husky fisherman, old person, like maybe 50 years old or something like that. And I was fishing and so on my fishing trip, very, very poor family. And so on my trip, I'm leaving the house and I have a wife and I have a daughter and they're very ill. Mainly my daughter is very ill, very, very, it's like very dark, like grayish picture, the whole, because I'm leaving and it's like not even sunrise. So I'm leaving
Early in
and
the
I'm leaving
morning.
and
Yeah.
it's very, very early and they're sick. And so on my trip, she died. And that's where my sadness was coming from that experience
From
that I
that
couldn't get
lifetime.
over.
Yeah, and we don't realize that we carry that sadness into this lifetime. And so what did we do to help you get rid of that sadness?
So we worked through that and understanding, but we did some clearing and
Some healing.
transitioning and some healing. I don't specifically remember the actual thing, but I know you went through and scanned my body and we found other things and then we cleared the lifetime. But here is the beautiful part of that and why that I remember that session so much. So that happened on, I don't know, Monday or Wednesday or something like that. But then, like a week later, my little one gets sick, right, at home. I have a boy at that time. I think he was like 5 years old. And ever since I had him, it was such a joy in my life to have him. And it was just different kind of joy versus my other two kids. Even though I was depressed, he was a joy in my life. And so he's sick a week or so after our session, and then he's sick, and then he tells me, and he's having temperature, and he tells me, Mom, is the fisherman gonna hurt me? And so he's relating or reciting pretty much my whole experience that I had during the session, which I had not shared with anyone because, I mean, why would they care, right? They're kids. And so there he's telling me all these things, and I realized at that point that he was my daughter. My daughter.
The daughter in that life. Wow.
It's him.
I don't remember you sharing that with me after the fact. That's beautiful.
Yes, yes. So here he comes, and he's confirming all those things. And at that moment, I understood it was like a connection finally happening in my mind as to why I visited that life, why I had to clear that sadness, but at the same time, why I was feeling so much joy today or on this life, which I didn't understand why him, even though I love my other two kids, why was so different with him. And so when he tells me in his sake having this fever and temperature and all that, and he's relating and telling me that story, I'm like, oh, that's him, that's her. Him is her who I was sad for. And so it was like magically everything disappeared. So it was even more beautiful to me to finally
Right.
put the
Because it just made that connection, and that is so beautiful. And you know what? That's the thing. The higher self knows what you need to see. So when you come in for these sessions, the right exact thing that you need to see that day is shown to you for whatever reason, and we never know. So we're just guided there to go there. And then after we were able to do some healing work in the body scan and clear some of that sadness, how did you feel after, physically?
Oh, it was magical. It was so magical that literally, so here what happened. So at that time, I worked on my own business. I had different lifestyle. Let's put it that way. After that, I went to school and I studied this.
I know.
So I went to and I became a hypnotherapist, and I help people to go through processes like that. So it was literally a life-changing experience for me, because after that, it was like, gosh, my whole life, my whole identity, everything changed for me.
Yeah, and we have been amazing friends since then. And we've actually had a couple of sessions, more sessions since then. And you are such a beautiful subject to get into that state. So I love it. So do you remember anything else about that session in particular?
That session, so we visited different lifetimes, but that was like the most impacting for me because of what was then and how it is now. But I mean, it was just the seeing of the like tunnel of time through time, and how for me also was to be able to go all the way back and see creation, see light, see stars, see the process of creation. Very it's spiritual. This is the only way I can describe it. Very spiritual to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is very special, because once people do that and go back, they have such a different connection to Mother Earth, to Gaia. You know what I mean? They have more respect for the trees and the water and the oceans, and just the way that we're all here. It's so beautiful.
Exactly. And not only that, I think it really, you understand that we're like all together and that we're not alone, that there is a greater purpose, a greater plan, and all of a sudden your problems have a different meaning.
Right.
They're no longer problems. I'm a victim here suffering, and sometimes we do feel like that because we're still human, but it's like you see the problem from a different perspective, and as you see the problem from a different perspective, you have greater understanding, or the reason, you understand the purpose of the experience that you're going through, and it's no longer just a single event. You see it now as part of something bigger and greater than you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once you get into this work, you do realize that, how we're all connected, and we're all here to heal, and we're all here to remember and find our greatness, because this body is not who we are here, because we come here to experience and to learn and to help each other. It really, bottom line, it's all about love. It's all about love and just making those connections with everybody. So it's beautiful. Yeah. And this work has changed our lives. After you did your session, you actually got divorced and changed your life, and really just kind of come into yourself. I do want to ask a question, because you did meet someone else and you have been seeing this person, and at one point we wanted to know what the connection was with that person. And so we came in and we did another session. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What you saw in that? What was the connection?
Yes. So it's so funny, because after going to school and understanding how the conscious mind and understanding how cells and we communicate, the first thing I did is when I met this person, I felt this immediate connection that I was like, that's not even me. It's totally against what I had in my vision in my mind always of a person that I would have a relationship with. It was totally like the opposite of what I had a picture of. So the first thing I did was like going inwards and trying to connect to get an understanding as to why I was feeling such a strong feelings with a complete stranger that I never met in my life.
Yeah, I never met before. No.
And so I never, really not like that. and the thing is that it was totally against what I have in my mind as the ideal person that I'm not racist, and I don't want to sound racist, but it was totally the opposite. Let's put it that way. of what I have a picture in my mind. I have a preference up until then. And so when I felt that, and as I started questioning and asking, I wanted to know if what I was really getting was correct. So I came to you once again, and I asked, what was the purpose? If this something, because I was getting the response that yeah, that it was part of my plan, part of my growth, and that I was supposed to learn unconditional love. And I got that answer a long time, even before coming to you, that I was gonna learn unconditional love, but I didn't know what it meant really, unconditional love. But so I come to you, we go through a session, and we find out we had a past life a long time ago, a very, very long time ago, where we were like literally wearing like a tribe clothes. We were like literally in a tribe. So imagine how long ago was that. Like they were not even in the woods in the mountain, and we were wearing those very tiny clothes in a tribe. I was the man again, and that's what I experienced a lot of my past lives that I have visited. I am a male, a male, a male, a male, and so that's interesting for me because here I am a woman, and so I had tendencies of being very like demanding and ruling and like a leader, and I thought it was weird, but now it makes sense. But back in the day, so back to the session, we go back to the past life, and so we find out we did the past together. And unfortunately, in that past life, I was the tribe leader, and I made a mistake or a big huge error to where there was a fire. Um, there was a fire, and everyone in the tribe died, and so it was my fault. And then I was like, we were here to work together to clean that and work things out because of that past life. And I don't know if we have past lives after that.
Yeah, right. Because we only explored that one, but that was the higher self knew that you needed to see now, and what was your connection? Why are you here in this lifetime? So, but sometimes when we have that information, sometimes we don't understand the reason. Even when you do a session, sometimes it's really hard to figure out why you're together. What's the purpose?
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, I mean, coming out of just getting divorced a year or so before that relationship, almost 2 years, um, it was like I don't want to make a mistake. I want to make sure this time is right, and know if there is a great purpose, especially because of the quick connection and how it all happened. It was like I knew this person my whole life, or something greater, and it just didn't seem quite right for me. So that's why I was pursuing or looking for that information. But here's the thing that, and of course, in this life we're opposite roles. I'm a male, and in the past life I was the male, and he or at that time. But the eyes is what it gave it to me. It's like you can't deny the eyes of the person, and that's how I recognized. I was looking at the eyes of the person, and I knew it was like it was like I only see this part and not the whole face, but that look, you cannot forget that look. So that's
Yeah,
how
and
I
you know,
connected.
it's funny because in sessions, a lot of times, I will have the client look into the eyes of the person that they're there with, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. And so when someone can look into the eyes, they make that connection with a person in this life. Sometimes it's here, and sometimes it's not somebody that's in their life now. But the eyes are the
Yeah,
windows to the soul, and that's typically how we make those connections in the regressions.
yeah,
So,
yeah. How it was. It was for me like that, and of course, I have a lot of learning from that
right.
relationship. It's almost 2 years, but I think it's on the ending stages. But I have had learning a lot, and unconditional love is truly what I learned. And I thought it was unconditional love for to everyone else, but no, I learned to be that it's unconditional love for me. And so that's been rough. It's been tough, but it's definitely good learning. And I'm still growing on that
Right.
unconditional love. In fact, I was just writing a video exactly on that, how to love yourself unconditionally. Because of learning, and I feel like we need to share it because gosh, we a lot of, especially as women, we sacrifice a lot of ourselves
Right.
for others. We forget about us. So yeah, that's the, I think that was the second session that I would do about that.
Mhm.
And of course, there was other stuff, but that was the most impactful thing of that session, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And the thing that I like most is after the session, how it changes people's lives and how they integrate what they learn. And just to see you blossom and become who you are. And, you know, you went and did your NLP training and just to take that step out there and start working in this field.
Yeah.
So how do you like working in this field and working with the healing work?
I love it. I really, it's just, and like you say, after the session, just someone changes their mind, changes their life, changes their perspective of seeing their life, or it literally changes their life completely. It's very rewarding to see that. But I think for me, is that with every session, I'm healing myself even more because it looks like the people that come to my life are like a match or a mirror to what I'm going through. And so it's like a gift that the universe is giving me to either see it from a different perspective or different point of view, the same problem, or it's giving me the exact tool to where I am forced to face my own healing.
Yes, because sometimes it's not something that we typically would do on our own, but when we have clients who come to
Yeah.
us, we have to work with them. Well, we have to work with ourselves before we can really work with them. So that's the way the universe works sometimes. So yeah, very beautiful.
And, and I think it's because sometimes, I mean, it's very so deep down that we don't even think about it as, oh, I have a problem anymore. But all of a sudden, there's a person in front of you, and you're like, wow, I go through that, and I suppress it or repress it or deny it.
Right.
And so it's finally showing up, and it's time for me to work it because as I see it, I'm like, yeah, that's me too, and let's work it together. We have the tools, so let's do it. And so most of the time it's like I'm creating the picture in my head if I'm directing the sequence or whatever the healing process, and it's like that's what I need. And so
Mhm.
I'm saying exactly what I need to, or the words that they say is what I need to hear as well. So it's quite interesting. And like you say, it's
Yeah.
very helpful as well.
Well, I love doing sessions with you because you're such an easy person to get into that state. And I love being there. I feel like I'm there with my clients when we're there. And so it is very beautiful. And
We do,
yeah, I love it.
because we literally, it's like we're so connected that you almost can see what they see.
Uh-huh.
And so when they come out and tell you, well, tell me about the picture, or tell me whatever you saw, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I was seeing too. And it's like really impressive, let's put it that way, to see that you can connect. And that just proves more that we are connected, that we
Hmm.
are all part of the one. And so another thing that I remember is that on that session, I was having like this like pain right here, and I couldn't like get rid of it, and I couldn't understand. And so, and I remember working with or someone a few days before coming to the session, and so their energy attached to me right here. And I remember that in our session, you were able to help me clear that out because I had this energy or force or something attached to me in the neck and my shoulders area. And I even have a name. I remember that person said that it was Gavi or something like that.
Yeah, I
That it
remember.
was
And you know
attached.
what? Yeah, my work is really going towards that area where more and more people do have attachments associated or attached to them somewhere. You know, I had a lady who went to the hospital and she got an attachment. All of a sudden, she had a pain in her ankle. You know, and she's like, "What is that?" So when we went in and looked at it, we found out who it was, what it was, got rid of it. Had another lady who had a pain in her wrist. You know, she picked up an attachment because there's so many entities out there just floating around, and they didn't know that they could go to the light or get to the light, so then they attach to people, or sometimes we create them in our minds as well. So more and more of my sessions are being filled with that releasing of those attachments, so it's really beautiful and we're able to do that.
And so that was really good for me because then I was able to get rid of that pain that I was having. And at the same time, I learned about that because that again was not part of my ideals at that time.
Yeah.
So I had to learn about that, and then of course as I learn to protect myself, and learn to be aware that there is more than what I can see with my visual eyes, with my physical eyes.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. It is definitely a learning process because, yeah, before I started this work, same thing. I mean, everything was so real to me here, the door, the walls, everything. This was my reality. But once you start expanding your awareness and you realize that, wow, there is so much more than what we see right here. So much more going on.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful when you make that connection and you start seeing how we are all connected energetically. And yeah, it's beautiful.
And even though, I mean, that, for some people that sounds like it's scary, like, oh my gosh, I have something attached to me. But even though, just to prove that we can heal ourselves, but also at the same time the power that we have, that no one else can be but us, right? And so that's important to know that that is possible, in that we can remove that because of our willpower.
Yeah, and I do want to just mention that to people, and thank you for bringing that up, that whenever you're feeling a pain somewhere or you feel pressure somewhere, just imagine that beautiful golden white light coming down from the heavens, filtering through your body, and send that light to that area of your body, because wherever there is darkness or attachments, they can't stay in the light. So you have that power to clear that out yourself. But a lot of times you don't know that until you go through a session, and then you can see it and you have a better understanding of it. But yeah, it's beautiful that we can do that.
It's even on the Bible, right? Even I mean, and I share this because I just got the intuition to do it. But even on the Bible, where Jesus says that they will be doing greater things than He did. So those are one of the things that we can do to make sure that we protect ourselves, that we cure ourselves, that we heal ourselves, because that's what it's all about. I mean, you're a guide to help us go through the process, but if you don't know how to do it as a person, you definitely have the power to do it. But if you need help, definitely book a session.
Yeah,
because,
definitely. Well, and it's like
it's easier.
all healing is self-healing. So even when you come and you book a session with us, we are not the healers. The client is the healer. We are just what's helping you and guide you through the process. But you are the healer.
You just have
your own self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to tell people constantly. It's like, you have to know that it's within us. We just have the process or the tools to help to make it easier. But yeah, and that's why I love these sessions. I really do. The last session I had, I don't even, I mean, I had so many sessions, but in another session that I had, I was a comet. I mean, who would have thought that? You would think that you're always a person, but no, sometimes you're like something else, or water, or rock. Oh yeah, that's what I remember. In one of our sessions, I was like, I was a rock, and here I was complaining. It was in the first section actually, that I was going through depression, thinking life is like harsh and miserable, blah blah blah, all that time. And then here I was a rock, and imagine how long I was a rock.
Rock, yeah.
Right? Probably years to exactly. So if I needed to wear confessions, or I needed to complain about my life now, imagine being a rock. So it gives you perspective to your current situation, and you appreciate that it's not that bad.
Right. That is beautiful. Yeah. I've forgotten about that. So, but yeah, I have people who are just water in the ocean, or they're just mist floating out in the cosmos, and they're stars and they're planets, and it's beautiful. There's so many things. And then one of the things that's really trees, animals, plants.
I was a tree too, and that's what I remember now that it's coming right back more, is because for me it's like I needed to see that we were part of the whole creation since the beginning. So we went through the transition of the first stage, or the first day, the second day, the second stage, and things like that. And so it wasn't just human life. It was, seeing how I went through different stages as a soul, or as a part of the creation, as the creator that we are. We went through different stages. So for me, that was important also to see and
of fading in and out a little bit here. So that time of the day. Well, we'll kind of end up the session now, but I just want to just say thank you for being on here today. It was a beautiful, beautiful session that you had, and I really want to just share with the world the conversations that we get to have with the universe every day of our lives that we do this.
Yeah.
So, is there any last message
It's
you
just
want to leave?
yes, and that is so spiritual. If you only give yourself the opportunity to see that side and come with that openness of mind, like a little curious child, you know, come and see, because it's really, you feel more connected in a lot of things will make sense, and some things will lose the impact or the problem that they become no longer a problem, become tools to grow, to enrich your life. So yeah, that's, I think those are my final words.
That's beautiful. And then how would someone get in touch with you? How would they find you if they wanted to book a session with you?
Yes, and you know, it's so funny you say that, because I primarily, I'm bilingual, obviously. I speak in English, but I also do Spanish. So if anyone's looking for Spanish services here in Las Vegas, or over the phone, or Skype, or Zoom, but definitely do that. They can contact me at normahypnotherapy.com, or they can find me just on Facebook at Norma Hypnotherapy or Norma Con, and I'm pretty much all over. Yeah, and I do Spanish and English.
Perfect. And then what do you specialize in?
Yeah, women and kids, and a lot of my clients are with their depression or addiction. A lot of them. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us today. We'll make sure we get your information on the video or down here in the section so they can look you up if they want. Okay? Well, thank you. Thank you, my dear. You're beautiful.
Bye.
Bye.